Good evening, dear listeners. Welcome to today's special broadcast as we delve into the wonderful world of the Italian opera. Whether you are an opera lover or just beginning to explore this beautiful art form, you are in for a trip tonight. We will explore the origins of opera, its evolutions, the reasons behind its development, and even talk about one of opera's most famous work, La Traviata, and the genius behind it. In addition, we will peek into the future of Italian opera and the challenges it may face. So sit back, relax, and let's take this musical journey together. So let's start at the beginning. Where did Italian opera come from? Believe it or not, Italian opera originated in the late 16th century. It originated in Florence, Italy, with a group of artists, musicians, which known as the Camerata. Through their efforts, a new art form was born that we now know as opera. Well, when it comes to the first opera, it was undoubtedly Claudio Monteverdi who composed Orfeo, which is considered to be the first opera in the true sense of the word. However, someone said that this piece is not the first. So, let's briefly introduce this opera. Orfeo is a very innovative work in which Monteverdi incorporated elements of the opera of his time, such as soloist, chorus, dance, and instrumental music. Musically, Monteverdi used a large number of accompaniments, such as strings and instrumental groups in a rich arrangement to enhance the emotion expression. The opera also served as a model for later composers, especially famous persons such as Handel and Mozart, who were all influenced by Monteverdi. But Monteverdi's compositions went far beyond opera, when his Ave Maria and several mass works that demonstrate his unique understanding of religious music. It is because of these innovations that Monteverdi is not only regarded as the founder of the Baroque period, but also one of the most important pioneers in the history of music. Then, we go into the 17th and 18th century. Italian opera underwent some exciting changes. During the Baroque period, opera became more elaborate and dramatic. So, why is this? When we think of the Baroque period, we imagine the huge architecture of Europe, with its magnificent castles, so it seems that in terms of opera, it also affected by the architecture and the development of the area. From Monteverdi's succinctly written opera Orfeo to George Frederick Handel's water music, this is an entire work full of gorgeous orchestral melodies, a very royal orchestral suite. The whole and the great works of composers such as Jean-Baptiste Lully. These innovative works also contributed to the development of Italian opera. In the 19th century, Italian opera underwent a profound transformation during the Romantic period, thanks also to composers such as Verdi and Puccini. Their opera were full of passion, love, and tragedy, and Verdi's most famous opera is La Traviata. So, let me tell you something about this opera. La Traviata, one of Verdi's most popular operas. But did you know it started out as a scandal? Premiered in 1853, it tells the story of the tragic love affair between Violetta, a Parisian courtesan, and Alfredo, a young man from a prestigious family. At the time, the portrayal of the courtesans as a sympathetic and noble character was shocking. So, why is it so famous? Firstly, La Traviata breaks with the traditional content of operas, whereas most operas used to be centered around myth and court. But this one is talk about real-life classes. The story of Violetta Valerie, A salty woman who sacrificed herself for love only to be swallowed up by the prejudice from her society is one that 19th century European audiences could relate to, and one that modern audiences can still find resonance in. As a critic of social hierarchy and moral hypocrisy. So, let's turn now to the role Violetta, whose dramatic portrayal undergoes a transformation from frivolous to affectionate to self-sacrificing. In Act First, she is the star of Parisian society, loving freedom and enjoying life. However, when she meets Alfredo Gourmand, love changes her worldview and makes her willing to give up a life of luxury for love. In Act Second, faced with persuasions of Alfredo's father, she chooses to sacrifice her own happiness, demonstrating the complexity of the character's personality and inner struggle. Finally, in Third Act, her resilience and dedication to love, showing the midst of her illness, further deepens the character's tragic colors. The interesting point is that this irony is also real. The opera is adapted from Alexandre Dumas' novel La Traviata, which was inspired by a real-life French courtesan, Marie Duplessis. She was a Parisian socialite known for her beauty and intelligence, and was romantically involved with many celebrities, including Dumas himself. Isn't that a surprise? The most exciting part of the opera is the way the voice and vocal technique transform throughout. The vocal technique throughout opera ranges from florid to lyrical to dramatic, which is just fantastic. Take, for instance, the moment when Violetta builds out this incredibly virtuosic aria at the end of Act 1. With its lightning fast scales, trills, and echoes. This piece of music is a true reflection of her superb technique, as well as her psychological state at the time, when she was seeking freedom and escaping from love. Then, in the last act, the melody becomes slow and tragic, and the timbre shifts from a gorgeous soprano to a low, mournful voice, which also reflects the character's gradual weakening of vitality until she dies at the same time. I found it more difficult to sing in the third act in a style that maintained vocal control without making the voice seem too full. But I relished the challenge. This evolution of vocal technique reflects Violetta's shifting social and personal identity, and highlights the traditional connection between the diva and the courtesan. Of course, to name just a few of the more famous and outstanding sopranos, Maria Callas is known for her dramatic interpretations, and her Violetta is highly layered in emotional expression. Diana Damrau, her voice is full, giving Violetta an even stronger dramatic expression, and Anna Netrebko, her tone is also full and makes audience impressive. These different sopranos had their own views of how to define the role of Violetta, resulting in some such multiplied versions of the perfect aria. So, what were people's view on the performance of the opera when it first came out? In the 1815s, for example, male critics had complex and gendered evaluations of the female performance of La Traviata. Their comments focused not only on vocal technique, but also on the moral image and the social role of the performance. They argue that such a female character should not be too demure, since Violetta was a prostitute, but also not too degraded. They also use the term over-dramatizations or lack of realism to describe female performance. For example, French critics found some sopranos to be overdramatic in their portrayal of Violetta, while others criticized them for lacking tragic impact. The content of the opera also seemed to have a social impact, suggesting that the image of socialite would not be allowed on stage. This also creates a dilemma for the female characters. So, what does the future hold for Italian opera? From its rise in the 18th century, so what's next? Opera faces both challenges and exciting opportunities. Some see opera as outdated and struggling to appeal to younger audiences. However, modern directors are using innovative staging and digital technology to reinterpret the opera. For example, through digital opera adaptations that appeal to younger audiences. It's just an example like the La Traviata in 2021 is set the age of social media with LED screens, Instagram live streaming and the modern urban scenes on stage. This innovative interpretation is new to young audiences, breaking the traditional opera format and attracting a younger audience. And with streaming services, people can watch the opera anytime, anywhere. And the live broadcast of La Traviata at the Metropolitan Opera was a huge success and proved that opera can thrive online. So, dear listeners, Italian opera is more than just beautiful scenery and dramatic action. It is a living, evolving art form. From the great theaters of Florence to the digital age, opera has proven its existence time and time again. So, what do you think? Have you ever been moved by an opera aria? Please tell me. Remember, opera isn't just for the elite. It's for anyone who loves a good story and theater. So, thank you for listening. See you next time.